Morning, buddy. How are you?
Bloody awesome. How are you, mate?
I'm pretty good. I'm not sure if I'm sweating because it's very hot or I've caught the virus that two of my children have, given they've been at school for a week now and have brought it home with them.
Yeah, our kids all went back to school last week, and on the weekend they all crashed. And we were supposed to be off boating with you, and the kids were all sick. And then Maren woke up sick, and it's like, this is 1 week back.
Yeah.
We had a good run. Now it's just all gone back to
I-
shit.
I actually took a video that I meant to send you on the day saying, sucks to be you. And I realized I never sent it. So I'll still do that.
Thank you. Oh, we've got to do a rain check though. But yeah, it is that realization that with the kids back at school, the need to have massive productivity in certain windows of time, and then the context switching when the kids come home and have to give their download and you've got to get back into work. It's haven't felt that in a good almost 2 months.
Yeah, it's good though. And Jack is wrestling with Louis at the moment, so he's running a little late, but he will join us shortly. It was great yesterday being in the precinct, and we actually had a team meeting, and there was 4 of us in that room. Unfortunately, Jack was still down in Adelaide, but I think we can talk about why we've got someone new on the team, can't we?
Yes, so we can finally announce 2 things. Number one being that we have received funding from QIC as part of their VCDF program to expand our US and UK mission program into an accelerator program. So absolutely bloody stoked to have that in place now.
And appreciative. And I'm so looking forward to what we're going to be able to deliver through this accelerator.
Yeah, it's bloody transformational. So what it means is, as of today, we are on the hunt for 10 Queensland-based tech companies that are seed stage to Series A to come and join this 6-month program, and we'll have more details on that. But for us, I mean, this has been 2 years in the making, right? Getting it to this point, and the support means a lot to us as an emerging fund manager, but also means we can scale the work we do through the missions. So, and then the second thing we can say is Claire Walker's now joined the team because we, as part of that, we need a program manager to deliver the accelerator and take the reins on the missions. So stoked to have Claire on board as well.
What I'm excited for is the last 2 years have cost Jackie's hair, and now we're going to be able to pay for hair plugs.
I don't know if the budget extends that far.
But I also think there's a lesson here for founders, right? 2 years in the making, but the first answer we got was no. And you guys didn't take that. You persisted, you maintained the relationship. 2 years down the track, it's a different answer.
Yeah, look, Nick Guest and the team there, like phenomenal humans. And I think like another lesson for founders, like the data that we got from previous mission alumni showing the capital that they have raised post-mission and benchmarking that against other programs, and demonstrating with data that we out-execute and our results speak for themselves. That was also something that helped sway it. So, but yeah, Jack, bloody perseverance, absolutely. A no just means not right now on the information we have right now.
I think it's also fair to say that we misread and misunderstood the early situation, and we didn't fit the criteria. And what we've worked hard to do is stay in the game, deliver value, demonstrate value. And yeah, I think it's a combination of all of those things. But I'm excited to get the support, especially given, like you say, Aaron, the stats that we have produced by the support that we provide to founders in the manner that we do, I think speaks for itself.
Yeah, exactly. Like previous participants have raised over 140 mil in the last couple of years, which is just phenomenal. But yeah, really looking forward to scaling this. And, we're already off to the US in 3 weeks, and the first cohort will be kicking off.
3 weeks?
We're not the accelerator, but the three of us head to the US.
I'm just looking at the calendar. It is
like 23
weeks.
days. Right after your birthday, Don, getting on a plane.
No, it's great. And Jack, you're coming?
Yeah, looking forward to it. I was saying to you guys, I haven't been to the US since I was like a little kid, so I can't wait to get over there and see what it's like at the epicenter.
The best part was yesterday when Jack heard there are flights to the US that go via Fiji, and the way you lit up having a 1-year-old at home.
Sorry, Anna, I'm going to do a stopover, a layover in the 14 hours in Fiji.
Oh, that's good. Well, let's get into it. So shout out to Ash, who's still in the UK. Time zones are just not lining up for us, but she's hot on the WhatsApp, still fully engaged.
Yeah, the work she's done on our back end and automations is bloody awesome. So it's good to see that coming together.
Are you going to talk to her about the fact that we're moving to Gemini and cancelling ChatGPT, or is this going to be a surprise for her when she arrives back?
Why do you have to mention the war? Like, it'll be waiting for her when she gets back.
Nice. All right. Well, let's jump in. There was an article in the AFR yesterday. Now, I pasted the link in incorrectly. I thought this was so ironic for some of the stuff that happens at the AFR. When you click on it, because it's wrong, it says you can't have success without some failure. That's the message on a broken link for the AFR. And I thought some of the journalists from time to time could take note of that little idea, because I think it's correct. But anyway, let's click on the actual one. An article by Paul Smith, James Thompson, and Tess Bennett says, AI comes for software giants and Australia is no safe haven. One venture capitalist warns there will be roadkill. Another says the market is schizoid. Artificial intelligence is making tech increasingly turbulent. Daniel Petrie has invested millions of dollars, the article says, in software companies. Now, with the markets worried that rapid advances in artificial intelligence will wipe out their growth, the veteran venture capitalist is the first to warn that there'll be plenty of casualties. I think the first to warn is a little strong, but I think what's happening now is it's entering the zeitgeist well and truly. I've got a chart later on where we go and talk about how the values of these public companies continue to fall, which is going to continue to be a challenge. Actually, the chart is here, actually. Let me just share what they've got in the article. I mean, when you look at Atlassian, Xero, even our own Tech One, on one day went from $24 the prior day to 18 in a single day. TechWise, 55 down to 22. Atlassian went from like 110 down to 102, but then rebounded to 105. Like these are some big moves.
Yeah, I picked up on that. Yeah, what was it? The first to warn. I don't know, buddy. But yeah, I think this is just becoming more mainstream in the market. It's been talked about in the public markets. It's now being factored into, quarterly updates in the public space. So I think we'll see more of this. And like with anything, the pendulum will swing way the other way. So I expect more of the same, I think.
One of the lines in the article says, the key question is where value actually accrues. In industries with low regulatory barriers and high interoperability, large general purpose AI platforms will put real pressure on specialist software by abstracting away systems of record. We're already starting to see signs of that. That is the big question. I have a view that AI and these tools are not immune to an economic law of gravity, which is a commodity product subject to competition with a zero marginal cost. The marginal profit always gets competed to zero. And I think when we look at OpenAI and what's happening around them, I think they're in a lot of trouble. And when I look at a whole lot of other companies, I think this is just going to be like every other tech disruption. There's going to be a handful of winners, a shitload of losers, and a lot of venture capital is going to be incinerated. And our job is to be on the right side of where that ends.
Yeah, 100% agree. I look at our own decisions around LLMs, like switching from GPT over to Gemini. Google owns us as a customer already. All our data's in there. When the product itself, like when the model is just as good or close to, we switch. Why have that extra subscription? And so, yeah, there's a lot of capital flowing into AI. There's a lot of capital still flowing into OpenAI. But I totally agree with you, Don. There's going to be an incineration of a lot of capital in the next 12, 18, 24 months.
I've got a board meeting today with one of the portcos, and they sent a deck, and in it I could just feel an anxiety, and the anxieties around what others are doing, like comparing themselves to other AI companies, comparing different things that are occurring. And the thing that just jumped out for me is I think it's important that if you have a product of value, you need to play tennis in your own backyard, but you can still look over at the neighbors and see what you can learn from them. Just don't start being driven by what the neighbors are doing. And I think that can be a little bit of a risk. Now, the reality is for this particular company who's going to do a raise, some of these fast growing AI startups are going to get a much better valuation than they are. That's just life, but it's on paper. And will they actually build a long-term defensible company? That's really what I'm interested in, because that's where I think the returns are. And this founder absolutely can, and this company absolutely can. But I think it's important to, yes, only the paranoid survive, and you do need to have that in you and that drive. But yeah, don't let the tail wag the dog.
That point you made about almost like the anxiety and looking at others in the market and what others are doing. This is actually my theme of the week, so I'm keen to talk about it more later. But yeah, I think it's a sign of the market and the uncertainty that exists when people start looking at competitors, start looking at what else is. And we're seeing that across the board. And there's just so much noise and hype and uncertainty that is like infiltrating thinking at the moment.
But I think that there's a good reason why it's infiltrating thinking, because in the same board pack, it talks about a whole lot of opportunities, but then it talks about the risks, and that this product is not AI native, and says the revenue curves of other AI businesses appear to be dramatically different, and there are demos being produced and shown to our clients that are creating noise and margin compression. And that's something we've been talking about for a long time, and that's what's starting to come out. I think it's noise, as in your clients are now able to get 50 pitches from people that can now create UIs and interfaces that look like real products, that look better than your product, that have more functionality than your product. It's a house of cards behind, and it doesn't have any of that stuff built out, but your client doesn't know. And then you then get nervous and you get into a conversation, your client can leverage that and push down your margin. That's what we're seeing. And this is just what's always happened on steroids. I mean, I remember the first presentation I did of my new web-based database. That's how old I am, Jack. It's a web-based database. It was actually a mock-up in Paint, and I just prayed that they didn't ask me to click on anything, because I was going to be in trouble. So this has always existed. It's just now on steroids.
Oh, 100%. I remember writing software where I would just drag buttons onto a screen, didn't have time to write the code behind it, but would just demonstrate this thing with all the buttons, and it looked like real software. But nowadays, yeah, you can just do that, with a prompt and actually generate something meaningful. It was interesting. We got an email this week from Derbler, who previously participated in one of our missions, and she was talking about replicating government ERP systems in Replit in a matter of hours. Now, yeah, back end, whole house of cards, the security and all those things, absolutely not there. Totally get that. But this technology will keep improving exponentially. And the ability for someone to spin something up, yeah, you can create an MVP in 2 hours to go test with the market. But with more time invested, and like we've been talking about in previous episodes, the shift of devs to the back end, the security and all those aspects, you can see where this is heading, like the quick vaporization of durability.
That Currawong certainly has a view on it. Why don't you put the microphone closer to the bird and see what it has to say?
So this is the problem of doing this on the balcony while the office is being built. The butcher birds come down.
Yeah.
That sound reminds me of Queensland.
Oh, totally. Isn't it one of the greatest sounds ever? What do you got to say, Jack?
I don't really have much to add there. Like, I agree. There is a large degree of uncertainty. I still think there's a lot of opportunity, but just try to navigate that uncertainty and still be confident in your beliefs to actually execute on it.
Yeah. And that little program I built for the family office, the advisory board chair out of nowhere has sent my details to some other family offices he's involved with and said, here's a solution to solve all of these things. And it's like, yeah, I may have oversold this a little bit, but
now, I was going to chat to you about this, Don, because I actually think there's a model here for us. We provide family office software as a service, as a top of funnel activity to get all the family office data in for trial.
And what? All you got to do is put 2% in the fund. Is that is that the angle?
No SaaS recurring. You've just got to commit to being an LP. Free software, exactly. But back on this one, I think the third thing from that that board pack that I'd probably add is, uncertainty on the buy side, but also uncertainty on the investor side. Like if you're having to go to market, investors are now far more cautious and have more uncertainty about where value is going to accrue. So that signal noise ratio, yes, on the buy side, but also the flow of capital.
I agree, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but I feel more confidence creeping in, for me at least, when I'm looking at stuff, because now that there's a bit of a meltdown elsewhere and we're starting to see some of the stuff we feared come true, I'm just getting a bit more confident to look at certain deals and say, actually, we don't need to swing at this because it just cannot demonstrate where these durability factors are. Yeah, I got to be careful that I'm not becoming cocky or arrogant, but yeah.
I agree with you on that. Like I was thinking about my comments last week, like distinguishing uncertainty from ambiguity. But I think for us, so I agree. I am probably in the arrogant camp of thinking we're getting much better at knowing what to say no to. But I think LPs and angels, and I think activating new LPs into venture is also the challenge when there's so much market noise and rhetoric.
Yep, true that. So then flowing on, there was with all of this meltdown happening, maybe it's short term, maybe it's long term. Adam Schwab, co-founder of Luxury Escapes, he did a post, got a feel for Atlassian employees who have seen the value of their locked up shareholdings destroyed in the past year. This is especially calamitous for team members who took the majority of your remuneration in shares and not cash. Probably not a big concern for Scott and Mike, though, who've been shrewdly selling the Atlassian shares every day since the business listed. And I think there's a number of things there. One of the things that companies like Atlassian have always come under attack for is when you look at their cash flows, when you look at their P&Ls, there's this separate line item for stock-based remuneration, which makes their P&L look nice. You've really got to then go to the balance sheet and cash flow to look at it. But for a long time, just taking taking stock has been good. And there's been fluctuations up and down. But if we're now in the down, there was a comment on there by someone, Serge Radistik, said, when a large proportion of your take home is locked in RSUs or options, a prolonged drawdown doesn't just hit your paper wealth, it hits life decisions, housing plans, family security, risk tolerance, and even mental health. And that is absolutely true. And it then hits our sector because the cash that would come from these employees reinvesting doesn't come.
Yeah, and arguably, if employees are reluctant to take ESOP, then they prefer to have higher salaries, which then affects the capital requirement as well and capital efficiency.
I can't remember how long after we had listed. All I know is that and we were a micro cap, right? But between December and the end of the half, December, and then when you release your results, which was in February, effectively directors, significant shareholders, and key employees were barred for good reason for buying and selling. But we had a reasonably significant shareholder that decided that they didn't want to be on the ship anymore. And I had to sit there and watch the share price halve. But again, in my mind, and I was, on a relative basis, a kid then, you do have a lot of visions for the future of what you're going to do. And you watch that evaporate. But then our competitors started to use it. Oh, have you seen what's happening with their share price? Oh, it can't be good. And so they then put the fear in clients, and then some clients then divided up the contracts just to have a bit more risk mitigation. And before you knew it, the reason for listing for strength and balance sheet and giving clients a lot of confidence turned into an unmitigated fuck up. Anyway.
But that emotion, shortly after selling my tech company, did an angel investment, and this thing went bloody well, listed, but I'm under the restraint for 12 months. And in that time, watching the share price go up, I'm counting the chickens. And then it crashed and actually went into liquidation.
Got the boat picked out. I know what lever.
It is an emotional roller coaster. And so it went to zero. It's like, thanks. That's awesome.
It's like the Simpsons episode with the Enron episode where they're on the roller coaster. Jack, anything on your side?
No, nothing to add there, Dom.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that say that 2026 is not an IPO or liquidity year.
Yeah, I think this year and next year, I don't see Canva listing. I don't see tech companies listing in this environment.
Yeah, which why we're so focused on durability, making sure we understand the market dynamics, because in a difficult environment, good businesses can still be built. And if you've got a big enough TAM, when you go to exit, even if the market is subdued, you can still get a venture return. You've as long as you play the game right.
Yeah, I think, we talk a lot about the lessons for founders, but I think there's a lot in here for investors, and particularly those, in syndicates or making their own investment decisions rather than passively through a fund. But I mean, the themes that we've been talking about for the last 2 years, it's like the death of the horizontal, like this shift to deeply integrated vertical solutions. I think in the short term, like this pressure on SaaS recurring as opposed to outcome-based pricing. What we talk about all the time, and Jack, you really go deep on this, is that durability reigns. And part of that is for us this thesis around IoT and software wrapped in plastic, like something that's actually going to be generating proprietary data that feeds into the AI and can give some sort of compute multiplier to get more exponential power into the model. So I think, and the other one I'd add there is also timeframes for exit. Like we talked about compression of margins, but there's compression of exit timeframes when there's so much ambiguity. And so I think looking for investments that have shorter timeframes for liquidity. And then I think the other piece of this is where this is all heading by just more the venture capital market becoming more bipolar. Like we're going to see the big funds continuing to write big checks, probably into more deep tech frontier technologies, and then the smaller specialized funds. But I think that whole mid-tier is being wiped out, and we're seeing it in the data. Like US VCs down, the number of US VCs down 25% last year. In Australia, we're seeing a lot of VCs silently disappear, go off the radar, drop headcount. So there'll be more polarization in the market. And I think what that means for venture capital firms is the shift of what founders are looking for isn't going to be knowledge. It's not going to be so much the business support. I think it's going to be more the humanistic side and the space that we play in, which is how do you help the founder on their own journey as they're also growing the business.
Where did Don run after?
He's probably had a truck back over something.
Yeah, there are so many possible answers. Aaron, did you see one of the partners at SquarePeg left?
No, which one?
Yeah, I think he's like probably 30 to 40 years old. I forget his name, like white dude, brown hair, bit of a come over.
You've just described everyone in venture capital, Jack.
Yeah. Don, did you hear that one of the partners left from SquarePeg? And I was like, that's a big signal. Like they just raised 650 mil and he's leaving on that.
I think that was James Tyan, wasn't it? You know how you're listening to a podcast and then it stops for an ad and it's really annoying? Well, that's what this is.
Oh, God. What are we doing ads for?
So from an investment perspective, what does Tribe invest in?
We invest in B2B tech companies post-revenue with scaling sales and the early inklings of their scalable sales engine that are looking to expand into the UK or US markets.
One of the main reasons I think Tribe is different is that we focus on a low volume of deals. We roll up our sleeves and add real value to our portfolio.
For sophisticated investors that are interested in investing to early stage technology companies that are scaling into global markets, we have both a fund that invests across a portfolio of ventures and also a syndication model where investors can choose the investments that they prefer on a deal by deal basis.
And enough of that, back to the podcast.
Like a lot of these cycles, a number of investors are going to end in tears, which is a dodgy segue to an article by Bronwyn Clune, which I think is the headline of the year so far, called When Devs Cry. Now, Jack, you won't know that there's a song called When Doves Cry. Do you know that there's that song?
No, I didn't. And I saw Elaine's comment and I thought, fuck, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, why is this such a good headline?
I'm surprised Don hasn't released the AI song, When the Devs Cry.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, When the Devs Cry. while the article says, while OpenClaw and Maltbook stole headlines over the past week, the real shakeup has been AI coding tools quietly redefining how startups are built. This is obviously a topic that we've been discussing, but it's crossed the threshold. Like this article goes into a range of things around Claude code, interviews a number of founders, a number of CTOs. I'll link it, and it talks about a prediction that many have made that this is the year that a single founder will create a unicorn, and there is a number of people listed who agree with that. Jackie from Airtree, however, is among those. The article says you still see the one-person unicorn as largely mythical, at least for a venture scale. It says, I remain unconvinced, despite being one of Australia's biggest AI champions, while acknowledging the technology's impact on how companies are built. Jackie Villings argues that the kind of scale venture capital chases still requires funding, teams, and go-to-market muscle that a solo operator can't replicate. And yeah, I'm totally behind that, because AI will make it easier, the team smaller and probably faster. But we've discussed it before. People can use whatever tool or framework they want, and all models are wrong. Some are useful, but we use the PAEI approach from Adesys, which is the 4 ingredients that you need to deliver, which is producing or providing what customers need, administrating, so you have systems and process, entrepreneuring, so you have new products, new markets, R&D, and integrating, so you have sort of longevity and vision and mission coming from within, PAEI. And just one person alone trying to do PAEI is very difficult. And even if you have agents that can go and do PAEI, they need to be set by humans that have a predominant PAEI style. And I think what we're going to find is that I can see 2-person unicorns, which some people might see as splitting hairs. But I think it could make all the difference when you can divide up PAEI, when you can divide up the emotional toll, when you've got someone in the trenches, when things aren't going the way you want it. That's the way I see it.
I agree, but is the concept of a unicorn actually an old concept? Like, is that outdated now? Like, if a solo founder can build a company that arguably, let's say, makes 10 million annual recurring or 50 mil annual recurring with basically almost zero HR OPEX, and yeah, they're not going to get external capital because arguably they don't need it because they've got to that runway.
And zero annoying investors that
exactly
are just
so will there be
worst.
more founders who are just quite happy building something like that rather than going for a unicorn? I actually see that playing out. I see more of these small solo operators building nice cash generating businesses in the short term.
I actually think we will see a solo founder reach unicorn status. And like unicorn status, the definition is just by funding round. And I don't think to reach $1 billion on a funding round means it's a legitimate business, at least over the long term. And I think we're seeing some crazy things happening. There's so much promo that if we can get someone who's AI native, that can ship a product that is production ready, that then has that holistic curve, at least to it, like, I don't know what type the revenue is. I can absolutely see the USBCs pumping this thing, even though it may not be a unicorn over the long term. And I think there has to be someone, and there has to be someone in the Valley that their one goal in life is they want to be that person. But like, I think over the long term, and like, if we think, is this a legitimate business? No, but I think we will see it because the world is so crazy. And like some of the stories we're hearing coming out of the US, like it doesn't actually seem real.
Well, when you have an industry that has capital to deploy and has to deploy it on a certain timeline, and there is more ambiguity in the market, and they're driven by this thing of the counter perspective and counter positioning, you can totally see capital going into that, people hunting for it and going into that. I think your point is spot on, Joe.
Because like, if we think if a solo founder can get to 10, and then if they can maintain somewhat of a growth rate, like it's not hard to believe they're going to hit the 100 mil hour and the 500 the bill. And like, this thing only has to last for 24 months and then it can all fall. The house guards can fall, but they could still reach the status which is ridiculous. I don't agree with it, but like, I think it's going to happen.
But a capital
It's-
market that's FOMO driven, it's going to do it.
But to tie back to what you said, Don, like I think absolutely, if this is going to be over the long term, 2 people minimum, I would even say more. Like I still think you need more resources than that to have a legit business that can service customers, even if you believe you can deploy 100 agents right now.
Yeah. No, you're right, Jack. And a lot of the game we play is actually a timeline game. It's boarding rockets and getting off. There's a Stephen Bradbury analogy, I think, in what you're saying, Jack. It's not exactly the same, but it's like you did a whole lot of things to fall over the finish line. Yeah.
The tribe strategy playbook, isn't it? Approach it.
Yeah, or it's like it's the opposite. It's sort of like, you know, when you see like the 1800 meter or like the 2 kilometer race and someone just comes out of the gate so fast and they're a whole lap ahead, but it's like, man, you still got 10 more laps and by the end of it, it's just completely done. So it's like you hit unicorn status on lap number 1, but you died after that. Like you're no longer around.
You just described Silicon Valley venture capital.
Yeah.
I did that in a race at school once. I knew I had no ability to ever probably even finish, but I wanted to be out front. I just sprinted, and once I felt my nose was out front, I then gave up. But for a moment in time, you're number 1. Well, and to sort of add some credence to that, we've got Matt James is going to come on the podcast next week. Now, Matt was, I think, the first CTO of VGW out of Perth, and Aaron and I met in Perth last year as part of West Tech Fest. And he shot me an article that he's been working on that he says AI has reached an inflection point in software development. Something has shifted in the last couple of months, he says. AI coding tools went from useful autocomplete to autonomous systems that can run for days. The gap between what's possible with AI and without it is now wide enough that ignoring it isn't neutral. You are going to fall behind. Put plainly, after 25 years of writing code, I don't see myself writing a single line of code from now onwards. I've been anti-hype on this until now because it wasn't quite there. That's changed. This isn't about demos that look impressive, but then fall apart in practice. It's about day-to-day reality of building software in 2026 and beyond. The tools have crossed the threshold and fundamentally changed the economics, speed, accessibility, and software. Now, this is a big breakdown of what, how, when, and who. And I'm going to link in there. We're going to talk to Matt about it. But this is the CTO of a unicorn. This isn't some idiot on a podcast playing with Replit. And I really look forward to getting Matt on because we're also going to go deep into all the tools.
It also reminds me of our conversation in London with the head of failure in Stephen Bartlett's team with Diary CEO, and how everyone on the team has to be experimenting with these AI tools and building new apps and things to improve the business. Like the level that this has gone to now, and remember that this today is the worst it will be going forward. And we've said this so many times, but companies have to be experimenting with this to be building the capability and muscle. The tooling is going to change. The exact application is going to change, but I think it has passed that threshold, and it is going to be the era of the haves and haves not from this point forward.
And Simon Beard, I thought I'd just play, Simon's got obviously infectious energy. So he dropped this video, which has on it, AGI is here.
I've got my Mac Mini and I've installed Moltbot. This has blown my mind more than any AI I've experienced so far. You have to try this. I actually got that goosebump feeling today of like, oh my God, this is AGI, the possibilities, what's possible. But then as well, like, what the hell do we do next? Do we need officers? We just need to talk to it. So you create it up as a bot, WhatsApp or Telegram. You ask it what to do. You connect all your models, all your context. I actually exported a whole gig of context out of ChatGPT and fed it in there. Thousands of conversations about ChatGPT. It has all that context and knowledge now. But then hooked up the new Claude 4.5, and it's mind blowing. I even hooked it to an ad account, Meta, and I said, can you analyze this ad account? Can you tell me what we're doing wrong? Here's the 5 best creatives. Here's the 5 worst. These are creative fatigue. And then what's crazy, it even looked on the landing page and goes, you've actually got an issue with this pixel that could be causing a problem. If you give me access to the page, I can fix it. And it's like, what the hell? I'm like the biggest one about data integrity. I spent hundreds of millions on friggin' ads and I missed that. It picked it up. And then what's crazy, it's going to do that report every morning and it can do the changes. It can go in the account and change its stale budgets, turn ads off, brief new creatives, and even create them. What world are we going to? That's just one thing that I've hooked up, let alone all the other stuff today. This is wild times we are living in.
He's not wrong. It is wild.
First up, how's his energy? Like, it is infectious, right? I'm thinking of some founders that pitched to us recently that had the opposite energy profile. When you have an energy like that, it builds conviction. Bloody hell.
But that's the energy like after 10 to 20 years in the game. Like if I can get to his age, win or lose, like success or failure, and still have that energy, you're winning, because he's still got the energy to go again, even if he didn't win.
Yeah, and it's so true. Like, think of the people in our world, Don, who are very successful individuals. They've had very successful businesses. They've made their cash, but they still have this drive like that, and it is infectious. I actually installed Micbot last week, and the more access I gave it to things, and then I watched some content of how it had started doing very random things and using people's credit cards and buying all sorts of stuff and accessing things. And so I quickly uninstalled it, and I really need to set up a separate sandbox environment. But the power of this is phenomenal. And the other thing it's been making me think about, though, is like I'm imagining the intelligence services at the moment. There's been some press around how Ring cameras are used and intelligence services use it to know where people are and do facial recognition. There's been some commentary about all different systems getting access. But you imagine now intelligence services having access to agentic bots on people's laptops and how much data they can do. But then when that's maliciously used by another government, like the next wave of warfare, I'm not so convinced it's going to be on a battlefield. I guess we're going down the drone path and all that, but I think these things are opening the doors to some bloody crazy shit that could go down on a global scale very quickly.
Yeah, and Matt's going to go deep into all that stuff with us. Can you just excuse me for 2 seconds again? The pool guy's standing at my door. I haven't given an update on the pool. Do you know how many people like I've had a call with this week, and they've said, now before we start talking, where's the pool at?
Have you got an update from Don yet on the pool?
Yeah, so it's over the boundary by like 1.5 meters. I think his only recourse is going to be litigation against the original surveyor. Like I don't know how he avoids. I just don't see an outcome. Short of him buying the land off the council.
That's so shit, isn't it?
So shit. Like you're a professional, you got one job. Yeah.
What's the outcome, Don?
So yeah, it has been built in effectively a state government road reserve.
And what's the only recourse now? Like what?
So the reason why I'm not too worried about it is it's going to be a professional indemnity claim because the surveyor's fucked up. So what happened was these titles were issued in like 1890 something. And then the same family owned it for a long time. Then I bought it and did my stuff. When I got the surveyor 5 years ago to do the work, they didn't actually go down and find the point at the creek. They assumed that the road reserve was the same width, which is actually not an unreasonable assumption. The road reserve actually flares from 15 meters to 18 meters, which is what they found when they went to do their pegging. And so what happens is that flare of 3 meters at the end moves that boundary over my bloody pool. And so it wasn't my competence, Jack, which I keep having to try and explain to people. It will be a professional indemnity claim because that's not my fault. But what is interesting, it doesn't look like a road reserve. No one knows it's a road reserve like it. And I tried to buy it back, but there are some rules. But now this surveyor is quite incentivized to help me. Otherwise, he's going to have a large professional indemnity claim. So he's now going to work very hard to buy back this road reserve. So the lesson for founders is like that Chinese proverb: don't get too upset or don't get too excited. Try and stay in the middle, because it may actually turn out that this is the best thing that could have ever happened, because now I've got someone who's going to work very hard to get that road reserve added to my property that would never have occurred prior. Yes, it's going to cost me a lot of money. Government doesn't just go and hand you land. And so I'm going to have to find some dollars somewhere if we pull it off. So it's win-win. If I get the land and pay some money, I do well. If I don't, I have a professional indemnity claim. And there are some things of this pool that I already don't like. And so the lesson for founders. Don't get too worried. Don't get too upset.
Oh, I always assumed that was your property there. I didn't even know it was a road reserve.
It looks good, doesn't it? Like I read it as mine. I'm going out of my way to plant endangered species in there.
Possession is 9/10 of the law.
So yeah, anyway, so that's the update, Jack. I'm a little less worried.
So water's going in right now, done.
No, water's in. We had our first swim, which is actually a good segue for happy life, happy wife is the saying. There was a post, Tech Bros in 2023, with AI, we could finally cure cancer. Tech Bros in 2026, with AI, I no longer need to talk to my family. This is on the back of what I can only assume is a satirical post, but who knows? It's on X. It says, I set up Claudebot to text my wife good morning and good night every day. Also a casual how are you message during the workday. 24 hours later, it's having full-on conversations without me being involved. This tech is absolutely insane. I haven't spoken to my wife for at least 2 days and she seems happier than ever.
Oh, I really hope it is satire.
Yeah.
But I can see the world heading that way. Did you see Facebook Marketplace has an AI chat now? So when someone says, are you interested? It'll automatically, is this still available? It'll automatically reply back with the yes, are you interested, and engage in convo.
Really? Because that is the worst part of Facebook Marketplace.
Which they created. Like they gave the option just to click on that to send that message. So they've created their own solution to their own generated problem. But I'm curious, so far, I've had no actual message from a human in any way interested in the things I'm selling. But I'm responding less, which is good.
Well, and Jason Lemkin, I thought this was, again, why do we do this podcast? It's fun, but I do enjoy it when founders and investors get a little push in the right direction. And Jason Lemkin did a post that said, if you're reluctant to ask someone to do part of their job because it's easier for you to just go and do it yourself, and you don't want to argue and you don't want to have, when you ask for it, it's 100% clear sign that it's time for someone new in that role, or just find an AI agent to do some or all of it. And I actually quite like that as a little bit of a framework, especially in a growing company where founders often will go, oh, I'm just going to do this myself. Oh, it'll just be easier if I can go and do this thing. We're entering a world where, one, if that's where you're allocating your time, you're going to fall behind. Two, you've got a person problem. Or three, is that the energy and feeling that you can go, well, hang on a minute, could I actually use an agent here? Because with all of this stuff that we've discussed today, whether it's Simon Beard's energy, whether it's the coding, the big problem for founders and investors is the day-to-day demands of life, of business, of everything, kill your time and energy to go and do this new stuff. Coming back to PAEI, when you're stuck in the P and the A, the producing, the administrating, you don't get time for the E. And that is what the killer is. It's not your intelligence. I think every listener on here has the intelligence to go and achieve greatness. But a lot of listeners and a lot of the people we deal with are really bloody busy. And we're in the same camp. I bet you if we could just pause life for a month and say to everyone, stop what you're doing because we're going to go and implement some new stuff. I bet you we could. But we got portfolio support. We got funds. We've got in LPs, we've got families, we've got whatever else, and it kills our time. And that's what you've got to get on top of. And if you're finding that you're not getting time to do it, you've got a managerial process problem. Something's happening there. And I think little things like this one are good just to remind people, hang on, stop what you've always been doing if you want to get a different result.
100% agree with this. And I think, we were talking about a tribe, like Don, how you and I have to be more out in the world and giving that energy in the market. And I look at my use of time last year and something I'm really conscious of this year, particularly with Claire coming on, like creating the systems for everything to run on. So getting all these automations in place, getting shit off my plate. And days like yesterday was a classic. Like we have the great investor meeting in the morning. We have different meetings throughout the day, calls with the US, and that's outward facing. But then in my head, I've still got this backlog of like basic admin type activities and still getting systems set up so that others in the team can go and run. And it's really frustrating for me to still be there 4 years into Tribe, that we're still getting those bits done, because I just want to be out in the world at the interface with our customers. but this is such a good insight. Like the part of that around AI and what can you use to generate systems and processes for stuff to be done. But if you've got a team member where you're just, I'm not going to give this to them because of frustration or any sort of below the line thinking, it's a sign you've got to take action.
And before I forget, with our new Airtable thing, it doesn't generate a unique link per episode, does it?
There is a way to get it. I've got to work out how to do it.
Because
So
I only found that
technically there
yesterday
is.
when posting the Chris Gillings and Albert cut-through venture, that when you go to our new landing page, so we need to get on top of that if we're going to post older episodes.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, the way I need to find it, there is a way to do it. I've just got to work out how to get the link in an easy way.
Ask Claude then.
Yep.
And we got an interest rate rise, which I think is going to be this. Yeah. I think it's going to be the first of many, because I was having a think of my debt load. Last night on date night, I had the chicken and not the steak, thus saving $20. So I'm trying to get myself fit for the inevitable belt tightening. I did obviously have the steak tartare as the entree. I'm not giving that up. I'm not an animal. But yeah.
The advantage of having a German wife who's from the Swabian region of Germany, which is renowned for frugality. We are going through the budget on our date night, and we are tightening the belt, and we are reining in expenditure on anything that is unnecessary. We're keeping the scraps of coleslaw rather than throwing them out because they can be reused.
Well, Libby caught me because we put scraps into the chicken, a container that we then take out for the chickens. She put perfectly good slices of lamb that the kids hadn't eaten. And she was hanging out the washing, and she watched me steal the chicken's lamb and then yelled at me going, "You are disgusting." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm not giving good lamb to the chickens."
Yeah, it was fit for human consumption. Did this come up in your session yesterday, Don?
And Jack, you're in the same boat as us.
Yeah, I'm the same boat. I fixed a home loan 100% just for 12 months. As soon as it came out, I just thought, bugger it, I'm jumping straight on the fixed rate.
Interesting. What? This doesn't have to go public, but what rate did you lock in?
So before that, on a variable of 5.4%, and then I fixed for a year at 5.49. So I'm still under, because now it's 5.65 on the variable.
Yeah, well done.
So even if it stays, yeah, my bet is it's going to go down in 12 months. Don't know if it's going to go up, but even if it doesn't, it just stays the same. I'm still like 0.1, like still a little bit under, like still netting a bit.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, well, I think about it, Don, like I always have your word, like body in motion stays in motion. So like, I was just like, I don't think it's going down. If anything, it's going up. So I was just like, bugger it. I just want certainty that $100 extra a month is going to kill me if I have to keep paying that first.
Yeah, if you look at the data, it's going up, barring some major geopolitical event.
Alan Kohler, the legend from the ABC, that's where I think that's where my love for charts came from. Because in the Mackenzie house, a bit like the castle, the TV was definitely turned down during dinner, but we always had the ABC News on. That was every night we would watch the ABC News, and Alan Kohler would come on and he'd always have a chart of the day. Now, his son has gotten into some finance broadcasting, but in a very funny way. This is a conversation between the central bank, a bank, and a borrower. And the borrower is trying to understand the central bank's decision to increase interest rates.
So we want you to give some more money to this guy. So you want me to give the bank more money? Yeah. Why? Well, if we make you pay the bank more in interest every month, you won't have as much money left over to buy other stuff, and inflation might go down. What about all the people with no debt? Yep. They'll have more money to spend. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to affect economy-wide change by making life even harder for borrowers who are more vulnerable than they've ever been before, because this country's completely dropped the ball. Housing affordability? It can't be all that. I mean, how much debt can you all have? 2.4 trillion. How is nobody focused on how much debt we're all in? I'll be in touch. Other than him. And
Some valid points.
Ooh.
Totally. At what point do we just the entire structure of that change.
All right, themes of the week. Aaron, you said you had a theme.
I did, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
Aging. Is that the theme?
Yes, that too. And
Competence.
like reading other things. Oh, they're always themes of the week.
Jack, you got any themes?
A theme. So this week, I obviously wrapped up my role with Ollie and HG. I suppose like it's just something you don't do very often. It's like always awkward having those conversations, but I always love like the saying like leave the jersey in a better place than when you started, and like maintaining that relationship. And for this, it was just great. Like everything's mutual, all the expectations. Everyone knew what was happening, and it was just good. It was a good feeling, like because there was no bad blood or anything like that. So there probably is a theme there, and founders can take away, but that's just been my weeks.
Well, I think it's because you put the effort into the early conversation and you had the awkward stuff up front and saying, I can only join based on these factors. I'm here to deliver value. Would this work for you? You didn't actually hide the reality.
Yeah. Which, had the combo early. So it was good. Actually going to go catch up with a few of them, go get sushi on Friday. So it's been a good week.
That's good. Oh, stoked to have you back full time too. Mine was signals of weakness. So going back to what we were talking about at the start around companies increasingly looking at what other companies are doing and just seeing more and more LinkedIn posts of companies talking about what their competitors are doing. And there was a case this week in particular I'm thinking of with Tanda almost antagonizing. And I've just seen more and more of these. And to me, it reads as a signal of weakness. Like I don't think it's coming from a place of strength. And I don't know, I look at these signals and there seems to be a rising level of it in the market where I do think that the pressure created by the uncertainty, I think is causing more to look at others and to directly attack rather than just forge ahead in their own lane.
I'm going to say I had a really good laugh at Ben's response at Tanda's post. Ta-da. Like that was so good. It was so funny.
It was an absolute cracker.
But it's also like, don't poke the bear. Like they're a much bigger beast and he could roll out free rosterings and could really change. Like he can run at a negative margin there just to screw you guys over.
But what's the net gain? Like what's the upside? I just don't understand the tactic. Strategically, where's the upside in that play for Tanda?
You've only got to look at the American political system where fear and conflict, if there isn't a level of respect in the way you operate, the whole system descends into madness. And I think you can compete, but I think you can be respectful. And I think you sort of can rise above some of those things. And like, it's just a common reoccurring pattern. Once you end up in a fear-based situation, you end up in trenches that you didn't think you were going to get into, and you end up with self-fulfilling prophecies and unintended consequences. But it's good to get the popcorn out from time to time. And
yeah, I mean, I love Tanda. Like the boys behind it done amazingly well. Bloody good success story for Queensland. My boys use it with the pizza shop that they work in, so I'm very familiar with the app. It's a bloody awesome app. But just an interesting signal.
Well, I've been quite behind. I only have a few charts. So this look at these kids. So this is the percentage. This is US going back to 1970 of the percentage of high school seniors that report drinking alcohol, smoking, and then smoking the wacky tobacco. And this is like a reverse venture curve. It's just down and to the right. This current generation, good on them for giving up the smoking and the wacky tobacco, but even on the alcohol basis, they just don't seem to be getting out a bit more. As Scott Galloway says, sometimes you just got to get out and make some bad decisions. Not bad decisions, but
I heard frozen yogurt was the new thing. I'm surprised that wasn't on the curve as well.
The amount of money we spend on YoPro or Yochi and YoPro is stupid.
Yeah, my kids are obsessed with it.
And it's so expensive. It's not like one scoop of ice cream where it's a fixed like amount. They weigh you on the scales.
Yeah, and the problem is you're paying for choice. That's the problem. That the margin that they must make. But I did go to one, Jack, with Libby and dead set watch this dude sneeze over the bar. Oh, and I'm just like, that's it. I can't go back to Sizzler. You don't remember Sizzler, but yeah.
But what's worse than Sizzler? The weight of that sneeze you're actually paying for when you buy this.
Yeah, that is true.
At least Sizzler was all you could eat.
So with the rise of anti-vaxxing, and especially with RFK in the US, have a look at the cumulative measles cases. Like 2022, 2023, bugger all. 2024 sort of crimped. 2025 up and to the right, and have a look at 2026. It's just jumped again. So yeah, there is a consequence for these kinds of things. This, for people at home, this is a chart that's like a color chart that is showing the percentage of the adult population that's obese in the US, which is and then they have physically inactive, food insecure, and smokers. And when you just correlate food insecurity with obviously smoking and physically active, when you have a look at the US, it starts off on the left, which is blue, which is like 11% or less. And then just as it goes through like the middle, it goes pretty dark red in areas. And then in some areas go back to blue. So yeah, I don't exactly know what to take from it, but the healthiest parts are sort of like center left and California or whatever else. And then it gets really quite bad in that middle and Southern America. Here's a chart for the software meltdown that has Figma, Trade Desk, Duolingo, HubSpot. Figma's down 76% in the last year. Trade Desk down 74%. Now, there are some, like MongoDB, up 33%. Zoom is actually up 4% over the last year, which is interesting. But there is a lot of red there. Asana, Atlassian, down 55%. Wix. She's a bit of there's a lot of red. So it would seem at some point, given what our two-party preferred system has done with housing affordability, migration, a whole range of things, so we don't even have to discuss what is right or wrong, but what happens, like in the US, in other countries, the populist comes to town, and now One Nation, amazingly, is ahead of the coalition, and it's just behind Labor. So again, a lesson for founders that we talk about of just don't, stay in the race, stay alive long enough to win. We could be using Pauline Hanson as the poster child for that when she becomes Prime Minister.
We are living in idiocracy.
And I didn't explain that chart very well. So it splits up the primary vote by generation, and it's the baby boomers that are really bringing Pauline through, which just has so many ironies. But but it's a percentage of the vote of Labor, One Nation, Coalition, Greens, and Pauline is preferred over Anthony Albanese as a leader as well, not just in terms of the primary thing. So anyway, hold on to your hat.
What are we looking forward to?
I'm hopefully this sore throat and the sweating that I'm feeling disappears very quickly because I'm supposed to have a big weekend.
Yeah, I've got a mate's birthday on Saturday, so a few beers won't be too many because they're too expensive.
Well, Mara and I are off to Sophie Tucker tonight at the Fortitude Valley Music Hall, so that should be good.
What is that?
She's an artist, I've been told.
Yeah, nice.
You're asking the wrong person, but it'll be a lot of fun.
No, that's cool. All right, lads. Well, Ashley's back next week, is she?
One more week, yeah. So end of next week. Yep.
All right. Well, we'll be back on deck then. All right. Have fun.
Hey guys.
Thanks, guys.